Welcome back to another week of Behind the Lens. I'm Debbie Elias, film critic, creator, and host of Behind the Lens, where we go behind the lens and below the line with all those movers and shakers, those film and TV and streaming makers, the producers, directors, writers, actors, cinematographers, production designers, costume designers, film editors, sound editors, mixers, designers, VFX gurus, composers, stuntmen and women, and so many more. Y'all know how much I love film and how much I like to talk. So when you put the two of those together, it is just heavenly to be able to give all of you a front row seat to the who, what, where, when, why, and how of movie making with these interviews. Now, sorry I missed you last week. I got some emails complaining that didn't have a show, but as my longtime listeners know, I've been dealing with a constant stream of water intrusion and flooding into my condo for the past almost 30 years. And I was just gifted with water intrusion event number 41 over the past couple of weeks, with water coming from the condo above and streaming through my ceiling, coupled with poor response from both the HOA and the plumber and the unit owner above. I currently am missing a very large chunk of kitchen and dining room ceiling, with the ongoing effects of disrupted popcorn ceiling and drywall dust and the noise of continual industrial blowers to dry out the ceiling, which was one of the big factors last week. I could not record anything because of the noise. And yes, water streamed into my computer because it was sitting on the table underneath the light fixture that had water streaming through it and blowing out light bulbs. So, that means I am even happier to be able to be back recording and giving you a new show this week. And I'm so happy to say that this is a very fun interview with a very affable, engaging, and talented director, writer, and actor, REED ARNOLD, as we talk about his feature directorial debut, Do Us Part. This is a fun rom-com filled with a lot of heart, terrific performances, and some great physical comedy. Do Us Part is the perfect, relaxing summer entertainment. For those of you in New York City, the film just opened in theaters on Friday the 7th, so just 3 days ago. And for those of you in LA, it opens this Friday the 14th in select theaters, I think at the Laemmle in Glendale. And for everyone in between, it will be also available on demand nationwide on the 14th as well. So if you can't get to the theater, you'll be able to watch it anyway on demand. Now, there are romantic comedies that aim for a chuckle. Then there are the rare ones that leave you, as I told Reed, laughing yourself silly, which I was doing watching this film. Do Us Part comfortably lands in the latter category. Yes, it carries shades of My Best Friend's Wedding in its DNA. And, Reed admits to that. But he also gleefully cranks everything up to the nth degree with comedy, layering in rapid-fire dialogue, intricate physical set pieces, and a surprisingly heartfelt third act that refuses to let go of the laughs, even as it leans into genuine emotion. That's a very tricky balancing act to pull off, but Reed does it. Now, premise is quite simple and entertaining. Who doesn't love a wedding, especially a wedding that has disaster written all over it? On what should be the happiest day of his life, Ryan's wedding is thrown into chaos when Rose, his bestie from college, and the woman who has secretly loved him for years, I know, you're shaking your heads, you know where this is going, she arrives uninvited to the wedding, determined to finally tell him how she feels. Yes, shades of Julia Roberts are reeling their head right now. As old emotions resurface, Ryan's best man, Mark, and also his other best friend, finds himself scrambling to keep a web of long-buried secrets from detonating before the couple can say I do. And the fiance, her name is Julia. And played by the lovely Laura Delhauser. And who has one key scene in the film in the third act that is not to be missed. It's a beautiful, beautiful scene. So we've got Ryan we've got Rose and we've got Mark. The collegiate triumvirate. Now, some years later, they're all together again. And Mark is the one who apparently is the keeper of the secrets. But can he keep all of these secrets? Now, starring Travis Laughlin as our groom Ryan, REED ARNOLD as Ryan's best man and longtime bestie Mark, and Kelly Russo as Rose, who is the third prong in this collegial friendship. The dynamic between the three, it's seamless, it's palpable, it's beyond believable. But beyond that, their individual and collective acting talents with comedic timing, both in dialogue and physical comedy, is superb. As you'll hear me tell Reed, Kelly delivers her comedy, her physical comedy. It's shades of Lucille Ball with her performance as Rose. And she has some really tricky dialogue that is rapid fire banter and patter that for the most part she does in tandem with Reed's character of Mark. It's wonderful to watch the interplay with them and see the dialogue unfold. I mean, it's just fantastic watching them. Now, as writer and director, Reed delivers a clean, sharply defined concept. Now, while the film's freewheeling banter and screwball energy feels spontaneous, he built them on a premise he hadn't quite seen before, even in the well-trodden realm of wedding set rom-coms. And this all began as a very successful stage play in North Hollywood, California, before Reed ultimately decided to turn the play into a film. And you're going to hear the reasons why it became a film. And yes, COVID is thrown in there somewhere. Now, with turning it into a film came the considerations of needing to expand the story and making everything cinematic. Luckily, he turned to Nick Venata as his cinematographer. I love Nick's work. For any of you that have seen the Netflix film, The Merry Gentleman, that is Nick's handiwork as DP. And I've seen some other things that Nick has done, but that may be the most noted one that all of you might have seen as well. He's wonderful. Nick delivers a film that looks far more expensive than it actually was, something Reed credits to Nick's mastery of lighting, framing, and lenses, and the way he deployed those tools to carve out distinct visual worlds of a bright but slightly stark wedding day balanced against soft, nostalgic college flashbacks. And something that is so wonderful in this film, they don't go with sepia. They don't go to black and white. They don't go to sepia. The flashbacks, the collegial flashbacks of their escapades in their quote-unquote youth, because they're not that much older now when this takes place. But it's just softened. It's not as sharp. It has more of an anamorphic quality to it. So that we don't feel a huge passage of time, because there hasn't been. And sepia would take us out of the moment, and we'd lose the spontaneity, I think. So Reed and Nick did a wonderful job in creating present-day wedding day and college. I mean, really just wonderfully done. Overall, the visual grammar is clean, sharp. It's visually interesting. A good portion of it takes place in one room, and Nick really varies camera angles and placement and different kinds of dutching. And it's beautiful. And what is very key is that the camera placement and the framing also mirrors the emotional journey of the characters, and quite often is very metaphoric as well. Now, as you're going to hear in this interview, Reed delves into his process. He's taking this story first to the stage and then to the screen, both in expanding the story and then working with Nick to develop the visual tonal bandwidth and visual grammar, working with his cast. Notable is that Reed, Travis, and Kelly all met in acting class many years ago, which also accounts for the wonderful camaraderie and friendship that we see on screen. It is not manufactured. It is real. He also talks about the high energy score and the work by Josh and Stephen Tackett, not only with the music, but with the sound design. Then there's the editing and finding the pacing of this film, which there is a definite ebb and flow to it that works beautifully. And of course, got to find out about Reed wearing all those hats, writer, director, actor, and one of the three leads. And quite honestly, I think he has more screen time than anybody else. He gave himself the best lines. So that's no secret. When you see the film, you'll see that. And you know I did not hold back and told him that. And he agreed. But he answers the big questions, the really big ones that you've heard me ask several actor-directors in the past. Would director Reed ever work with actor Reed again? And vice versa. So take a listen and enjoy the fun and insight from writer, director, actor Reed Arnold into Do Us Part. Hey, Reed.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very excited to be talking with you about Do Us Part.
I appreciate the time.
I laughed myself silly watching this.
Good. That is the point.
Yes, we've got shades of My Best Friend's Wedding in here, but you punch it up to the nth degree with comedy, and dare I say, you gave yourself the best part and the best dialogue.
I did. Very selfishly, I did that. You are correct.
Well, I absolutely love it. I mean, you kick this film off. Opening is vibrant. There's gorgeous color. There's close-ups. We know this is a wedding, but there's also an aliveness and vibrancy to what we're seeing. And I have to say, a lot of that's due to that location in Virginia. It's just gorgeous. But then by the 18-minute mark, I am in stitches between the encounter between you and Kelly Russo's Rose, which then morphs into Mark, Rose, and Ryan. And this hilarity back and forth goes on for about 6 minutes before you give us a moment to stop laughing. And then you bring in physical comedy with the van and the wheelchair, just beyond belief. And you keep pacing it this way. So you have us laughing, and then you slow it down for just a little bit, not too much. So you give us like 6 minutes of laughs, 8 minutes of laughs, slow it down, let us breathe, drink some water so we're not spitting it out of our noses. And then you pick it back up again. And then give us one of the most beautiful, heartfelt third acts that, of course, you had to end on a very comedic note. This is just so fantastic, Reed. I love this film.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you. I'm very glad you had fun with it.
I know this started for you as a play. That played. It played. You premiered it and showed it in North Hollywood.
Yep.
And then COVID did you in.
Correct.
But where did the idea for this story begin with? As I said, there are shades of My Best Friend's Wedding, but then you take it to the nth degree beyond that, especially when it comes to physical comedy and particularly the character of Mark.
Thank you. Yeah. So it definitely does have shades of My Best Friend's Wedding. I think the thing that makes it a little bit different was that first idea I had for the story was, what if a woman came to a wedding to confess her love to the groom, but the best man tried to stop her from succeeding, partly because he himself had his own secret for doing so, which I won't spoil for your listeners.
Right.
But he had a secret reason for trying to stop her from getting the groom away. And so when I had that kind of premise in mind, I had never seen anything quite like that. Going to a wedding is not the most uncommon story, but this is a little bit different. And to have that be the driving source of conflict between the best man and the would-be crasher, it just led to kind of some fun arguments and scenes. And as you kind of say, right, you start with those two fighting it out, and then you get the groom in, and the chaos continues to build, and secrets get divulged, and it just kind of all turns on its head. And so once I had that basic structure, I realized I had something that I hoped would be pretty fun.
And I have to say, your casting is impeccable. And this is the same cast that did the play, correct?
The original staging of the play were myself and these two other actors. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you, Travis Laughlin and Kelly Russo, you've got an amazing chemistry. You're a perfect triumvirate. Your comedic sensibilities, your timing, and of course, a lot of what you have, especially for yourself and for Kelly, a lot of tricky dialogue that is nonstop. And you've got to have, it's got to be a certain kind of person who can pull that off.
It was really lucky. We were in the same, there were 10 people in our acting class, and they were two of the others. And I think they're just great for the role. And Kelly has some long monologues that you have to fly, and it's pretty serious, but then you have to throw in kind of a throwaway joke. You have to have someone who can really handle a lot of words. And she's great at it. And then she's great at physical comedy.
Yes.
Throw it all together.
And that's getting tougher and tougher to find anymore, are actors who really can pull off physical comedy, who can be a Lucille Ball, who can,
she got a Lucille Ball to her. Yeah.
And it's sad that we don't see that as much anymore.
Yeah.
But it's a real gift. And you are wonderful with physical comedy. I want to know, though, how many miles did you end up running? There is that sequence in there. It's roughly around the 42-minute mark. That is just hilarious with running, and then we can't find the groom.
That was basically the first 3 days of shooting. The first 3 afternoons of shooting, we're filming the chase scene. And my cast, they didn't love me by the end of it, but I think it all turned out okay. And the poor women were running in heels, that's just to make it even worse. But we had some good distances that we had to trek for some of these longer takes.
And those poor women.
So thank you to the cast.
Yeah, those poor women, not only heels, but floor-length gowns.
Mm-hmm.
You were not kind. You were not kind,
No.
Reed.
No,
now,
it was probably the meanest thing I did as a director. But had to have it, had to have a cinematic chase scene.
And you had to do it in formal wear.
Yeah, right.
Of course, I noticed that Mark is not wearing his tuxedo jacket, so he's got a lot more freedom happening here.
Not the reasoning behind it, but you are correct. That would have been worse.
Yeah, don't think I didn't pick up on that one, Reed. Now, the play was very successful. And then you decided after COVID and all of the mess that went with that and the problems, then you decide you're going to make a film. You're going to take that story and turn it into a film. And actually, structurally, it is a perfect kind of story to take from stage to screen, or vice versa. But you've got to make it. You've really got, for film, you've got to bump it up visually. So once you decided to make a film, how did you work with your DP, with Nick Venata? And by the way, I love your end credit about Nick. He gets his DP credit, but then also, and literally everything else. That's a lot of fun, and that says a lot about Nick. Knowing that Nick is your DP, and now I'm a fan of his work. I love what he did on Netflix film, The Merry Gentleman. It's very Hallmark-esque in its look, as is Do Us Part. So it's vibrant, it's bright. You judiciously use close-ups. So I'm curious what your conversations were like to then make this cinematic.
Yeah, I'll be the first to admit I don't know much about cameras at all. I'm fallen face forward through every aspect of the filmmaking process, and I was very forthright with Nick that I feel pretty confident directing actors, and I can tell you kind of what I want a shot to look and feel like. But we're going to have to do this fast. We're going to have to do it cheap, but I don't want it to look like it. And I'd seen his reels, so I knew he could do it, but I was really, can you do it with very little money and very little time? And he said, absolutely. And I was pretty floored at how much he lived up to that confidence, because I don't think it looks anything like you would expect it to look based on the equipment we had. He really is just, he knows lighting, he knows framing, and he knows lenses and all the elements that go with that to make a shot look beautiful. And we talked about how we wanted because there's a lot of college flashbacks, right? So I wanted those to have a little bit of a different feel, a little softer, a little more nostalgic.
Yeah.
And I wanted the wedding day to still be bright and fun, but a little more stark, a little colder. And he, so he got all the equipment we needed, and really, him and my crew, they came through better than I could have ever hoped for, and made this thing look very professional for a first-time filmmaker who doesn't know squat about filmmaking. So I'm grateful to them.
Well, I have to say, I love the visual grammar. I love how it changes up with close-ups. As I said, when the film opens, there's a lot of close-ups, almost bordering on extreme close-ups. So it really gives us that intimate wedding day feel. And then slowly, you and Nick, you pull back, and you give us a wider view. You open up the framing. You open up the scope. And then you incrementally go back in as Rose shows up. And then we get beautiful, tight 2 shots on Rose and Ryan. And, of course, you and Rose. And you go back and forth with this so that we're seeing the dynamic of the characters and where they're at.
And I told Nick this. So we had a lot of, there's a lot in that one room, and there's a lot of time spent in that one room. And so we did a lot of work together on thinking how to make sure it kept being visually interesting. And so, you're noticing up front, a lot of shots through the mirror with Mark and Ryan where they're getting their bow ties ready. Then we move over to we tried to block it really well. I tried to make sure the camera, it's shooting one way at the beginning, then another way at the midpoint, then the third way, so you're getting different sides of the room. We were pretty, I'd like to say, thoughtful and strategic about making that space feel dynamic, even though a solid 30 to 40 minutes of the player or of the filmer in that one room. And he made it look great.
Yeah, you did a really great job, and I love using the mirrors because the mirror also, it becomes very metaphoric for, the images and who they are and the reflection they're seeing and things like that. So you've got a lot of that subtext built in through that.
Yeah.
And that was not by chance. That had to be on purpose, and don't even tell me it wasn't.
I will take that. I will take that compliment. Say yes, ma'am.
Then you get this shot, so beautifully done, even capturing all the bugs and things flying around in the garden. That was exciting to see. Did you?
That's one of those things. I mean, it wasn't intentional, and it's one of those things that I think a professional, I think that's one of those things that a film with a higher budget would probably avoid. They'd make sure that there were no bugs flying around, and I think it adds a little bit of authenticity and makes it feel tangible. It makes you feel there a little bit. So that's one of those restraints that I actually is to the film's credit in the end. Gives it kind of a mystical quality.
It's very natural, and these are the things that people forget to think about with an outdoor wedding. Depending on where you are.
Also true.
There are bugs.
Also true.
There are bugs.
Right.
Especially with a garden that's that pretty. And the type of plants and flowers that are there. So that works really well. It works in your favor here. Now, you mentioned something really key that I really appreciate are the flashbacks to college. You don't go sepia. You just soften it up a little bit. But I love that we go back to the college days to see how this triumvirate friendship started and how the secrets start that everybody's been holding. Was that challenging writing? What was your writing process to go back and forth between that? Did you write your flashback college scenes separately from present day, or were you able to jockey back and forth? Because it's a very tricky line that you walk, but you do it really well.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I wrote this 2 or 3 years out of college, so at least the memories were still fresh. And it's a smart question. I had written most of the wedding stuff, or at least the structure of the wedding stuff. I wrote it originally as a 25-page short film, some 30-minute movie I was going to shoot. And then we started to rehearse it as a play, and my acting teacher and director, who's a wonderful actor and teacher, Wolf Bodison, he said, hey, you three are supposed to be really good friends from college. This is such an actor-y thing to do. But he's like, you're supposed to be really good friends from college. We need to feel that. I want you all to meet up and just do a rehearsal and pretend you're friends in college and, set up a little scenario and do it. And so we met up, and I kind of said, like, okay, so Rose, your boyfriend's not going to your formal, and you ask Ryan on a date, and I'm going to come in and want to go to the formal as well. Some simple improv. And we did that and had so much fun with it that I realized I could we could add those scenes to the play. We could make it a full 90-minute thing if we flesh out the college and actually show the college flashbacks. And so then I wrote those scenes, one of those scenes based on that improv, which is still in the story. And, really just added that backstory to these characters and made it a full piece. And so it was written separately, and there is a different feel to them. It is both in the look and in the writing, I think. I'm proud of them, and I'm glad you enjoyed them.
Yeah, I love the way you go back and forth. But what you do really well with going back and forth is you don't have empty exposition in there, and it's really used as a tool for what's running through their minds in present day as they're flashing back.
That was the goal.
And that works so well, the way you have structured that. And again, it goes back to your dialogue. I mean, Reed, your dialogue in this film is just fantastic.
Well, thank you.
And then you punctuate that, again, Nick's imagery. The overhead view of the labyrinth with Mark running through it in the third act is fantastic. It's great.
Thank you. And
you didn't shy away.
That was not scripted. That just happened to be on the location, so we figured we better use it.
The movie gods looked out for you there, Reed. And of course, I so appreciate the fact that we do get to hear Rose vomiting up her stupidity in her college days. Not too many people will shy away from that, but there's your authenticity factor again. I do have to ask you about your score. I love the music. The Tacketts did a great job, and I know they did your sound also. The motifs are all high energy. It gets toned down in certain scenes, but the energy is still there. What were you looking for musically?
The Tacketts are wonderful. They're sound editors and musicians in Tulsa, Oklahoma, who I met through a kind of an Oklahoma filmmakers symposium and needed a sound team. At this point, I wasn't even looking for music, but they said, hey, we do that. Would you like to hear some scores? And I was looking for music that, depending on the moment, you notice the motif, right? I wanted a little bit of a Rose and Ryan motif, something that was nostalgic and sweet. I wanted for other, touching moments, powerful score that I wasn't trying to Hans Zimmer this. I wanted it to be pretty and befitting of the genre. And the trick is always to do it where it's something you feel but aren't distracted by. And I think they really did a wonderful job of just putting the accent points on certain scenes. And you mentioned energy a few times early on in the film, and some of the early cuts. The first act, I thought, we need a little more energy here, but we don't have the footage for it. And so I said, hey, Tacketts, can you write some song that's just background music that just adds a little little spice to it, makes it feel a little ups the urgency. And I think they just knocked it out of the park.
Absolutely.
So I'll be sure to pass along the compliment to them. So
and then the sound mix itself, the sound editing of bringing it all together and meshing some very complex dialogue in with the scoring is just very well done, Reed. This whole film belies this being your first feature directorial.
Well, I owe that to the team, but thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, you did nothing. Okay, we'll just say that you did nothing. Which
I'll take no credit.
Which begs the question. We have Reed Arnold, writer director. We have Reed Arnold, actor, as one of the principal players here. Would director Reed Arnold hire actor Reed Arnold again? And would actor Reed Arnold ever want to work for director Reed Arnold again?
Under two conditions would that pairing happen. One would be a film with a large enough budget that had cushion for a few extra days so that director Reed could watch more footage of actor Reed and give actor Reed some notes and some ideas to help realize what actor Reed needed to do, or frankly, just being able to have time to watch footage broadly is something I wish I had time for in this shoot. And the other possible condition is that actor Reed has a supporting role rather than a lead role, because being a lead role and a director with no budget or time is not easy. So there are ways we would do it again, but it would have to be a little bit different this time. So
does this mean that while actor Reed was on camera, who was giving you notes? Was it Nick?
It was kind of everybody. I kind of opened up the set. I said, hey, I can't see myself and I can't watch a lot of feedback here. So if you notice anything or if you have any ideas that you want me to try, I'm not going to be egotistical about it. Let me know. And I'm going to give credit to Ashley Scott, who played Liv.
Mm-hmm.
Is not, it's a smaller supporting role, but she's a wonderful actress, and she was actually kind of a teacher at the school we went to. And she gave me a really important note on a really important scene when I kind of said, okay, we're done. I got this. Let's move on. And she said, Reed, I know you're wearing a lot of hats. I know you're busy, but this is a pretty important moment, and I don't think you have it yet. You're not really listening to Ryan, and I need you to, let's do this one more time and just sit there and let it affect you. Be present and all that good actor advice you're supposed to follow. And so I give her, that's the take we used. She was absolutely right. And so I took direction from my team.
One last question for you, Reed. Your first feature directorial. What did you learn in making Do Us Part as a filmmaker, besides not starring in it at the same time as directing?
That's a big one.
But what did you learn that you can take forward into hopefully future features that you'll direct?
Well, I hope so too, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I learned. I did a lot of planning, and it did pay off. But I also realized some ways where I was very lucky in that. Despite my planning, if things had gone a little wrong, I could have gotten in pretty serious trouble. And so I just have thought about more scenarios and more things to be aware of when you're planning a shoot. And the big one is just, I've kind of alluded to it, but it's not a bad way to be a filmmaker to surround yourself with smart, talented people and, talk about what you want and let them use their talents to execute that vision. Because again, I always thought a director had to know everything about photography and camera work, and I don't think that's necessarily true. I think the director of photography can handle all that, and so I feel much freer in doing that again. And I'd love to collaborate with Nick again. I think he's just terrific. And so that's what I learned is filmmaking really is a collaborative effort, and you need a lot of talent in multiple different avenues to make it work.
Well, job well done, Reed. It's a fun film. It's entertaining. People are going to love it. And I can't wait to see what you do next.
I appreciate it, Debbie. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching and enjoying.
Thank you so much, Reed, and have a great rest of your day.
You as well.
Thanks. Bye-bye. And that was Reed Arnold breaking down all things Do Us Part. As I said earlier, the film is already screening in theaters in New York, but it will be opening in LA this Friday, I think the Laemmle in Glendale, Friday the 14th, and it will become available to everybody on demand on Friday the 14th. Do yourself a favor, and if you can, check it out in the theater, or wait until Friday, kick back at home and watch it. I guarantee that you'll not only laugh, but you may even find yourself going, "Aww," and then burst into laughter again. That is all the time we have today. I'm cutting it a bit early today, as the other interviews I have are either still on embargo or over 45 minutes long and deserve their own episode. But don't forget to check out behindthelensonline.net for more reviews and interviews. And then join me, actually, before I tell you about next week, do yourselves, filmmakers out there, please go to the website and check out my interview with Ryan Johnson, who is the founder and head fabricator of New Rule FX. They provide special effects props. They are a practical effects fabrication studio. They build screen-ready props like breakaway glass, stunt-safe weapons, hero props, creature FX. They reproduce historical artifacts. They make blood. They make lots of blood and cinema dirt and rubble. And they've got a brand new facility in Northridge after their longtime facility in Van Nuys burned to the ground in November of 2025. A ton of great information there in our interview. So I can't encourage the indie filmmakers enough. When you are looking for product for your films, for blood, for dirt, for breakaway glass, and a myriad of other things, please check out New Rule FX. Their work is exemplary. Their pricing, you're going to love it for your indie budgets. Let me tell you guys. So please, if you don't look at any other interview this week on my website, please look at REED. Look at the one with Ryan Johnson. And now next week, you definitely don't want to miss this interview as I chat with director Ben Gregor, and we talk about the perfect family film for nearing the end of summer, The Magic Faraway Tree. It is based on the books, the wonderful books that have been out for a while, and I just love it, and I really hope it does well enough that we get a series out of this. Even maybe a television series, if not a movie franchise. It's fanciful, it's enchanting, it is delightful, and I love it. So I can't wait for you to hear my interview with Ben next week. So, until then, I'm Debbie Elias. This is Behind the Lens.